The director introduced the new intern, Mengshu, to the team, promising to give everyone a reward for their good work soon. Mengshu happily typed the best code for his company, finally feeling like a full-fledged member of society after college. He was sure that the fruits of his labor would make him rich. But a week later, he was already sitting in a dark office until late, turning himself into an office plankton. The error returned to the screen, and the effort seemed futile, bringing poverty closer. He started shaking with rage, wanting to end this world. He leaned back in his chair. Mengshu was tired of thinking and decided to go to bed to work again tomorrow, realizing that he was born in a bad place and wanted to wake up to see the aliens arrive. At this moment, a sound was released, notifying the launch of the ideal life system. He reacted to the sound, opening his eyes to look. A system table popped up in front of him, showing his stats, which would allow him to live an infinite number of perfect lives. He grinned, thinking about the boss and overtime, telling them to fuck off. Mengshu fiercely stood up, mocking reality loudly as he tasted freedom. At this moment, a huge explosion occurred outside the window. It was a gas pipeline explosion. Under the window, there were piles of corpses burning in the flames. At this moment, the undead rose up, wanting to tempt someone else's flesh. Mengshu watched in horror. Abruptly, he pulled the curtain shut. He was very nervous, trying to figure out if the system really wanted to give him a better life. The system confirmed that she was giving a perfect life, but Mengshu reminded her of the sudden apocalypse outside the window. At this moment, the building began to break in. It was the zombie of a girl he knew. He remembered that it was Boss Lee's niece from a nearby company after all. They once rode in the same elevator, and now she was breaking into the building with red eyes, wanting to eat him. The system gave him a task to talk to her for a perfect romantic encounter, for which he will give him 1 stat point and a partner. He began to search the room for anything useful, but nothing was going to help him, and neither was just sitting out, so he wanted to get over it right away. He tried the door handle and accidentally pushed the zombie girl. Because of this, she fell to the floor. Mengshu immediately bowed to her, introducing himself and asking for permission to meet her. Since she couldn't answer, he decided to take her silence for agreement. He immediately ran back into the room. The girl sat on the floor in disbelief. Then she screamed furiously. Zombie started banging her head on the door. Her punches gradually began to crack the glass. Mengshu guessed that this could be considered an introduction. The system considered the task completed, but gave a terrible rating for its rudeness. Mengshu wasn't happy with her opinion either. For this, he was given 1 stat point and a bit of the Chi Wei girl's affection. Mengshu thought that zombies couldn't feel affection, but assumed that a strong attachment would keep her from attacking. The system explained that because of a strong attachment, zombies will want to be closer, and for enough stat points, you can force the zombies to obey. Mengshu was interested in the last part of the sentence, realizing that he might have a zombie girlfriend. He sighed, not understanding why they didn't come up with a beginner's guide. Mengshu slowly took off his glasses, intending to investigate on his own. He ordered the system to add a point to his strength. The system had carried out the order, and his current strength was 11 points. Then he clenched his fist, intending to deal with the apocalypse. In the apocalypse, spirit, physique, strength, and agility were extremely important. But at the moment, Mengshu's strength was more important. He set the bottle down on the table. Although he felt indescribably powerful after swaying the force, there was no food at all in the office, so he needed outside help. The system gave him a task to check in at work and gave him a time of 17 minutes. As a reward, he was entitled to 5 points and additional opportunities. The timer was right outside the door, but to do that, he would have to somehow bypass Chi Wei. Mengshu was terrified of her. In addition, he was given a chance to correct the assessment of the previous task about flirting with Chi Wei. He knew he could do both at the same time, and he began to use all the tools at hand to prepare for the meeting with the infectious dead. He was wrapped in paper and duct tape, holding a makeshift spear. At this moment, he decided to go out. Only there wasn't just one Chi Wei, but a whole crowd. He rushed to her, declaring his love for her. Mengshu jumped right up to her, asking her out on a date and offering to pay off the mortgage together. But after his words, Chi Wei just turned around. The system reported that it was pathetic, and Chi Wei had a negative opinion, so 10 attachment points were taken away. Chi Wei turned aggressively. Mengshu was sweating in fear. At this moment, there were 2 men sitting outside the door. They heard Mengshu's voice as he confessed. The manager was shocked that he went to flirt with a zombie, even though he suspected the zombie was weird. But he wondered why Chi Wei hadn't bitten him. The manager decided to call Mengshu to them, asking them to come up with a secret plan to get out of here alive. He opened the door to the right room. And I got caught on camera to check in for my shift. All of a sudden, he heard sounds coming from a nearby office, assuming they were zombie employees. The system reported that the task was completed, giving an average rating. As a reward, he was given attention from the boss and 2 points. He didn't know who would need the boss's attention in such a situation. A store opened in front of him for glasses, which sold money, energy drinks, and crackers for satiety. It annoyed him that money that no one wanted was being sold here at all. Shi Wei, who hadn't attacked him, was walking behind him, but there were a lot of dead people in the building besides her. Then he decided to head back to the office to think about the plan. At that moment, a voice came from behind. A manager appeared from behind, peeking out, and Mengshu was surprised at his pity. He recalled how he ordered him to work overtime. But I ran up to them anyway, knowing that it was best to keep as many people as possible with me during the apocalypse. As he ran to the door, the director smiled slyly. I slammed it in his face. He used it as a distraction for Chi Wei and promised to give him a promotion. At this moment, Chi Wei turned towards him. Mengshu smiled with his jokes. The system congratulated him that he would soon be promoted and ordered him not to contradict his boss, sincerely thanking him for this opportunity. Mengshu began to address the manager loudly, telling him to get back to work. They were both shocked that he was starting to attract attention. Mengshu started banging on their door. The manager held the door, ordering them to carry furniture to block it so that Meng Xiao wouldn't get to them and distract the zombies for their escape. The man carried the furniture for a very long time. Because of this, Meng Shu was still able to break down the doors. He greeted the men on the floor. But at this moment, he quickly ran away, intending to get to work. The two of them couldn't understand what was going on. But when Meng Shu ran away, Chi Wei appeared in the corridor. She immediately smelled the smell of flesh. She dashed past Meng Shu and straight into their room. Chi Wei leaped at her victims at an incredible speed. Meng Shu was closing the office door as his superior shouted, and at that moment, their blood splattered on his glass door. The system praised him for his courage to refuse his superiors and gave him a rating of perfect. As a reward, he was given a letter of recommendation and 5 years of work experience. Although he had behaved sensibly among his colleagues, he had ruined his reputation, losing the favor of the boss by 100 points and the colleagues by 50. Also, he opened a hidden achievement, which gave a reward of $5,000. The next task he was offered was to treat his colleagues and boss to a barbecue to improve relations. He received the cash, happy to make an easy living. But suddenly he received a letter. He immediately clicked on the app icon. It contained the very letter of recommendation that would give him the opportunity to get a new job. He rejoiced at the thought of being offered a job as a warrior, mage, or archer, and it would have been the perfect solution at this time, so he immediately agreed to use it. He was given a job as a leaflet distributor, considering this as the first step to his wealth. He froze in place in shock. At this moment, explosions and chaos continued to occur on the street. He sat down on a chair, shocked at the failure, not knowing what kind of flyers he was going to hand out. The system reported that there is an exclusive mission to choose from. He was offered flyers from a sports club, a law firm, or about starting a home. A different reward is given for each choice. He didn't understand why he was being offered useless money as a reward. Having sensibly evaluated all the options, the fitness club turned out to be the most profitable. The system sadly reported that he chose a less long-term job that paid less. He didn't even understand the meaning of the experience. He was now an intern at a leaflet distributor. Meng Xiao stood up from his chair, realizing that he still needed to start with the first step. He hoped that he could at least survive the apocalypse thanks to the system with stat points. Meng Xiu picked up the flyers. The system gave him clear instructions to distribute them. Extra experience was required for sincerity. He packed up and went to work. When he stepped out into the corridor, Chi Wei was still walking around. He tried to reach out to her to give her a leaflet. Meng Xiu even knocked on the door to get her attention, but this plunged him only to get a negative in her eyes. He was grieved that they judged him for one act without knowing the truth of it at all. So he continued on, once again catching up with Chi Wei. At this moment, someone on the street was shouting for help, and on the floor lay his dead superiors. He immediately received a negative appreciation from them, even though he worked for them without paying. Then he came up to them with leaflets, and he began to distribute them, offering to go swimming and fitness. The leaflets fell dryly on the dead body, but the system didn't like it because it was disrespectful behavior, so I asked them to correct it. He didn't understand why the two of them were constantly trying to shit on him. Meng Xiao reminded them that they didn't go to heaven, so he offered to help them find a job. But he couldn't offer the same to Brother Lu because he would need his legs at work. So I decided to take a manager to sweep the floors. At this moment, the girl was flipping through the news. A week has already passed since the first news about the recommendation to stay at home. She was crying on the floor, propping up the door with a mop, not understanding how this could have happened to the world. The girl couldn't understand how everything had moved so quickly to their town. begging to be saved. Suddenly, the door in the hallway was kicked off. She held her breath, sweating with fear as she heard the noise, thinking it was a zombie. Meng-Shu walked along the corridor, offering swimming and fitness services to everyone. The girl didn't understand what was happening. He was shouting as he handed out flyers to everyone, saying something about a premium customer. She was extremely frightened by this. Then she decided to open the door a crack. The zombies smashed into the glass as Meng-Shu asked everyone the same question. She watched him in horror. In one hand, he held flyers telling them about the season ticket, and in the other, he held ropes. The girl immediately noticed where they led. The zombie manager and Chi-Wei were tied onto its ropes. She backed away from the door in horror. The girl began to panic even more, mistaking everything for hallucinations. So she decided to pick up the phone and text her mom to let her know. She didn't know if she was crazy or if it was the office workers. When he handed out the flyers, they became useless to him. So he's led the managers behind him, who keep their distance from him out of dislike. Now he has a pet dog that can go ahead and influence other zombies. He set the bag down on the table. Meng-Shu had already handed out more than 200 flyers and offered to take a break. Then he opened up his stats. He could increase his level of stats and performance. Meng Xiao immediately decided to raise the level of his excellent profession. Thanks to the level up, he got a good mood and physical condition to distribute leaflets in any weather. Also, he gained the skill of reading people, which he did not expect. Thanks to this skill, he can determine the current profession of the target and the level. If the level is very different from Meng-Shu's, then viewing is not possible. Meng-Shu would call it simple deduction, not some kind of ability. He was resting while eating chips, feeling a certain pleasant feeling. At this moment, shouts and sounds of fire could be heard outside the window. According to his calculations, there were a couple thousand zombies outside, while there were about 100 in the office. He could only use the office to complete his assignment, and he wouldn't need to go outside. Meng Xiao was terribly disappointed that he was giving all of himself to these two, dragging them along with him, and their affection was still in the red. But I still knew that it was useless to talk to them, so I decided to give them leaflets. At that moment, an idea struck him. So, with a sly face, I handed them flyers, offering them a discount. They tried to refuse until another zombie appeared on the right. His affection was -50, but he still attacked him, even though he was doubtful. Meng Xiao deftly pierced his head with his spear, and then the zombie with a hole in its head fell to the ground. He immediately offered him a leaflet. At that moment, a crowd of dead people began to break through the second door. He tried using people reading, but nothing happened. He assumed that they were simply not related to any task of the system. Above the heads of Chi-Wei and the boss, he could see the level, so it meant that the zombies outside were above level 0. He sighed as he interacted with his companions. But Chi-Wei immediately took a step of a meter, which caused her to push her boss. Meng-Shu did everything for them, not being late for work, handing out flyers and chatting with them, but they hated him. He untied their ropes from the door. And I was going to continue distributing leaflets. The system informed him that he would need to go up to the 11th floor and discuss the parking situation with Wangxiang's manager Lin, who was his final boss. Meng-Shu didn't expect to hear Chief Lin's name. He left the room. He approached the elevator cautiously. He wasn't sure if he could beat the boss, so he decided to call Chi-Wei and Chief Zhang to meet him. After all, colleagues should also be friendly. At this moment, Chi-Wei and his boss suddenly rushed forward. They ran down the stairs at breakneck speed as Meng-Shu continued to cheer them on. When they reached the floor, it was completely filled with dead people. Meng-Shu immediately sent them to attack to clear a path for himself. Chi-Wei and the supervisor started beating up the zombies. Suddenly, a dead man lunged at him from behind. Back then, Meng-Shu pierced his head with a spear and helped them deal with the zombies. The zombie girl pounced on him, and he cut it in half. After a while, the floor was cleared and he ran on. Finally, they reached the office, but then he noticed something. The zombie tried to attack him from around the corner, but Meng Xiao managed to punch him in the head. His subordinates were shocked by his coolness. He began to pass on. The room was filled with corpses as he tried to find Supervisor Lin to discuss the parking incident with him. He waited for him to show up. The system reported that his aura has charmed the Wangxiang staff, and a certain Nan is pounding on the door, making sounds of encouragement. He was praised for fiercely defending the interests of their company, but Supervisor Lin was extremely impolite, continuing to yell outside the door, unwilling to meet his determination. Chi-Wei and Zhang Tao were also impressed by his appearance, so the task was completed. The task was completed with a rating of excellent. Meng-Shu suggested robbing the 11th floor in search of money, since they had come, and sent his subjects ahead. After that, he tied the knot. By tying up your zombies with ropes, he saw the time on the clock, not expecting that time was passing so slowly, and he had to wait another 2 hours until the end of the shift. Meng-Shu was horrified that even in the face of the apocalypse, he was thinking about the working day. He deftly opened the soda bottle. Mengshu was sitting comfortably behind a chair, still not understanding what was going on, so he decided to spend the remaining hours trying to sort out the situation. Even so, other than the apocalypse, there were more important details. Because of the flash, the mobile signal became extremely weak, as if it was a planned attack. This gave them motivation to increase their combat capability. He placed the empty bottle on the table, asking the system to add another point to his strength stat. His strength value was now 12 points. From now on, he was going to invest all the points in strength, and when he could defeat the zombies, he would deal with other stats. He decided to look at his stats. And I noticed that to raise the level of a leaflet distributor, you only need 5 years of experience, and for an office worker, as much as 10. He wondered what characteristic the level in the office would raise. So I decided to invest all my experience in an office worker. The spirit stat and physique stats were slightly increased, and now he would need to balance rest and work so as not to burn out. He was given 2 spirit points in the skill idleness. Mengshu was satisfied with this result, feeling more energized. But I was surprised by the idleness skill. Now he could secretly shirk his work without his boss noticing that the first thing he would notice was coworkers shirking, which was a passive skill. He just had 2 colleagues who didn't mind being lazy, so now he could collect resources more safely. But now he had a daily task to work on, which gives rewards for duration and progress. Even at the end of the world, he has to work, but he turned on the computer anyway, determined to complete the task. He was almost falling asleep, but he continued to work as usual. Suddenly, the end of the working day came, and his hard work was rewarded handsomely. He yawned and stretched because of such a grueling day. But he noted that he left his job. A huge wad of money appeared on his desk. Mengshu didn't know who would need the money right now. The system suggested that the money can be used in the lottery, and every 10 guarantee the main prize. Mengshu became motivated, immediately getting ready to play. I decided to buy 10 tickets at once. Out of everything, he got a couple of packs of noodles, mineral water, a high-end suit, a wrench, and the talent bodyguard. Most of all, he was interested in talent. This allowed him to summon an experienced bodyguard within a 3-kilometer radius. But this did not guarantee an excellent security guard, but only gave an opportunity. I decided to use the skill right away. As he ate, he thought about starting his own company. Since it has such a system, it can unlock new tasks. His eyes lit up at the idea. After all, then he will be able to improve his skills through hard work and become the boss. Mengshu ate his fill of noodles and sighed in satisfaction. Suddenly, the system issued an urgent notice of an office intrusion, and the intruders ignored security. He received a new task, to protect the company's property from robbery. They gave quite a generous reward for it. He was furious, not going to let anyone invade his home. 2 men were walking down the corridor with guns, trying to get away from the dead. One of them was furious that a certain Huang Jia was shouting too loudly and attracted a crowd of zombies. They decided to look for something to eat, as they lost everything too quickly along the way. The man sent his friend first to repay him for covering his rear. The boy agreed in a shaky voice and led the way up the stairs. He took a knife out of its case and stood up nervously. Suddenly, he stopped. His face was covered in sweat and tears because he heard footsteps, afraid that it was a zombie. But the goon was sure that the zombies would have immediately charged at them when they entered the building, assuming that they might be survivors. The guy cautiously peeked out from behind the wall, and very much frightened. After all, Mengshu was already standing right next to him. The boy jerked back, not expecting to see him. The goon held his friend back, trying to find out how many people were there, and if there was food, but there was only one thin guy in the office. Mengshu said with a smile that the entrance was forbidden, and the guards below were supposed to stop them. And he sighed, deciding to change the management company later. Then he looked at them again. He began to chastise them for trespassing, suggesting that they call a lawyer from another floor so they could see for themselves, but advised them to leave before it was too late. Both men immediately went into shock and panic. The bandit didn't expect that he hadn't seen the latest developments. I pointed the bat at him, trying to find food. Mengshu sighed, determined to show what he was capable of after all. He pulled on the strings, beckoning the supervisor and Chi Wei to deal with it. The bandit ordered to kill him, assuming that there were still people on top. The guy with the knife ran at him, but Mengshu knocked the weapon off his hands with a wrench. He threw a second punch, knocking the guy away. The man looked at his fallen comrade in shock. Mengshu twisted the wrench in his hands with a grin, calling himself a god. The bandit went wild, grabbing his bat, but before he could finish, he was stunned. 2 zombies appeared on ropes behind him. Mengshu immediately warned that he had disinfected the key before the fight, so there wouldn't be any contamination. And again, he hinted that he would not let them out of here alive. Inside, he was giggling with happiness that he could speak like this now. The man opened his mouth and screamed in fear. He dropped his friend on the ground and dashed down the stairs. The guy looked at the situation again. and he ran straight after his friend. But Mengshu wanted to show them that you can't just leave the scene of a crime and follow the law. Therefore, he sent the chief and Chi-Wei to attack them. But they didn't really listen to him, just turned around. He slapped himself in the face because he had forgotten about their attitude towards him and that they couldn't get to the stairs because he was blocking it. Suddenly, the man grabbed his friend's arm. He didn't know what he was doing because they needed to escape quickly. The man was shocked that Mengshu wasn't being bitten by zombies. He began to walk slowly down the stairs toward them. There were 2 zombies right behind him. He admitted to being a public safety activist for the company. The guys didn't know what to do, but offered to go for those 2 zombies that don't attack people. The guy was taken aback by his suggestion, suggesting that he go himself. They were on the 3rd floor, so they had a chance. He looked out the window, seeing a huge crowd under the building, so it was impossible to jump noisily. Then the man jumped on him, determined to fight. Mengshu called it self-defense and dismissed the zombie boss. He immediately jumped on him, which made the man hesitate. The bandit tried to hit him with a bat. I hit him right in the face. But suddenly the bat was knocked out of his hands with a wrench, which gave the zombies full access to jump on it, predicting its end. The zombie boss started tearing at the bandit in the background, while Mengshu was being clever, reminding him of his advice. And besides being a public safety activist, he was also an employee of a cleaning company, and now he will need to clean the floors. Mengshu glared at the terrified guy, threatening to point a zombie at him if he tried to escape. The guy couldn't say anything, just kept shaking. He curled up in a ball, just wanting to get home. Mengshu had slightly overdone his self-defense, and so he would have to change his clothes. And then I decided to call an ambulance for the bandit. He advised his friend to call the police and connect the local branch while he called his defense lawyer. Mengshu repeated his order a little louder because the guy didn't respond. He was very scared, but immediately decided to comply with his request. The guy tearfully begged for forgiveness, trying to explain that only his friend was to blame for this. Mengshu recalled that he had gone against law and order himself, and he ordered me to leave on my own because he was too lazy to push him out, hinting that he should jump from a 3rd-floor window because it's not fatal. The guy quickly jumped right out of the window, smashing it. He began to fall to the ground. Mengshu was examining the guy on the ground who was already injured all over. Then he decided to entrust the beautiful Chi-Wei to take care of him, making him lucky. He went back to get back to work, leaving his 2 zombies to pick at the corpse. Mengshu went back to his office. He started to remember all the tasks for today that he had already completed. All of a sudden, the system praised him for raising the affections of its zombies because he fed them, so they hated him a little less and would soon be able to get out of the negative attachment. Mengshu shouted aggressively, tearing up the flyers. He started stomping around, venting his anger, because he couldn't possibly like Chi-Wei and the boss at all. But then the system issued another notification. She offered to start a new business, offering a reward for the scale of his future business. Mengshu had already considered starting a business himself, and such a coincidence was already extremely suspicious. He thought that he could open a stall on the street and sell food. But then I remembered that zombies don't eat human food. The system issued another task. Chief Lin still hadn't moved his car out of the parking space, which meant disrespect, so now he needed to teach Wang Xiang a lesson. He needed to open a customer service company to bypass Wang Xiang and completely bankrupt them so that he could prove himself in front of the entire city. Mengshu sighed, but he grinned as he got the success plan ready. The first step was to straighten out the brains of his 2 zombies and then go upstairs and fire 60% of Wang Xiang's employees, as the assignment said. Then he went with his zombies on a mission. He charged into the crowd of zombies with a wrench in his hand, and together with his pets, he began to deal with the enemies. After a while, his wrench was completely covered in blood, and the crowd was already wiped out, sprawled on the floor. It was only a couple of dozen dismissed employees. He noticed that there were too many of them, so he would deal with them in a couple of days after leveling up. While he was thinking, he was able to polish the wrench until it shone. Then he turned around, taking the zombie with him. At this moment, in the room, the girl continued to sit in the shelter, terribly hungry. She didn't understand why the salesman had stopped coming. She tearfully begged him to come back. Suddenly, she heard a familiar voice in the hallway, this time selling apartments in a new apartment complex. As he suggested a good residential area to the zombies, she closed her mouth in shock. Her hands were shaking as she reached for the door lock. She couldn't believe that the Almighty had heard her pleas. She slowly opened the door a crack to take a look. But then she was horrified. In front of her, Mengshu was fighting a crowd of zombies with his subordinates. She reached out with a shaky hand, knowing that he was her last hope. But he kept fighting the zombies. He hacked at the dead with his spear, and he continued to sell them apartments and houses, advising them to get in line. As he hacked at them, he closed in on her. Blood splashed right in front of her face as she watched in fright. He struck the floor with his spear, turning back. Mengshu tossed his hair back, grinning. She couldn't believe that he could be an ordinary person, and at that moment, he abruptly turned to look at her. The girl immediately rushed to the corner of the room, covering her mouth so as not to make any unnecessary sounds. Mengshu slowly walked over to the booth. He glanced at the closed door. He grinned as he reached out to her, offering her swimming and fitness along with real estate. Mengshu came into her room while she was sitting on the floor. She hadn't expected him to be a living person. Mengshu just grinned, intending to make a fortune out of a living person. Later, they went to the law office. She introduced herself to Mr. Zhang Wei as Shen Zhaojiao, having graduated from the university with a degree in Chinese philology. Zhaojiao tried to explain to the battered lawyer that she had come to him with a legal matter. She turned her head to look at Mengshu sitting next to her, who was holding a zombie behind him and looking at her wildly. Zhaojiao could directly feel his pressure and couldn't understand why he could control a zombie. The girl looked at him cautiously. Mengshu couldn't understand why she was constantly looking at him as if he would give her an answer. So Zhaojiao decided to say everything. She loudly claimed that her friend at work was oppressed, and in the end, she was bitten by the boss. For attracting a client, the system gave out many awards, increasing their level. Mengshu praised her with a smile. He stood up slowly, remembering her name. He suggested that she attend a lawyer's consultation every day and suggested that she spend the rest of her time on fitness and swimming. The girl began to cry, thanking him for everything. But Mengshu reminded her with a crazy smile that there was a price to pay for it. Zhaojiao was shocked as she looked at him with a startled look. Mengshu reminded her that the consultation fee was 200 an hour, and since she had spent half an hour as a lawyer, she had to leave 100 money for him. Lawyer Zhang wept because he was moved. Zhaojiao thought he was absolutely right. While she was paying, Mengshu told her about his new business, offering to work for him. Zhaojiao thought about it. It was better than huddling with a zombie. So she bowed, wanting to join his company. The system issued a note that he would need to get all the paperwork to set up a company, and he would need to get a license from all the right places, giving him a 7-day deadline. Further, she offered to name the company, employees, and set their wages. Mengshu was disappointed that even in an apocalypse, the system was forcing him to deal with paperwork. He decided to go to the 4th floor. As they left, Lawyer Zhang looked at them with fear. After a while, he handed Zhaojiao a bottle of soda. Mengshu had already come up with a name for the company and decided to call it Peace and Order. Zhaojiao praised it for having such a good name. He couldn't believe that after a week of internships, he would open his own business. The girl was praising her boss. He turned to look at her when he heard the sound of her empty stomach. Mengshu immediately suggested that she eat a bunch of noodles since they were cheap anyway. The girl's eyes lit up when she noticed the spicy noodles. She devoured pack after pack with relish. And suddenly I felt truly happy. Mengshu decided to appoint her as the chief accountant, ordering her to print out the employment contract for cooperation with Zhonglin. He'd given her an assignment with spreadsheets and papers, and she couldn't believe she'd be doing something like this at the end of the world. Mengshu asked if she knew how to use the app, to which Zhaojiao gave a positive answer. He pointed through the glass door to where her colleagues, Qi Wei and Zhang Tao, were standing. Previously, Qi Wei was the secretary and Zhang Tao was the manager. But now they will be guards at the door while she works quietly. Mengshu immediately advised against trying to make friends with them, otherwise they might eat her. She thought she was already dead, and that was only part of the afterlife. Mengshu ordered her to go back to work, giving her his desk to become the first manager in their company. She sat down at the computer, promising to work hard. Zhaojiao immediately started working on the paperwork. Mengshu grinned as he saw the hope of the company's prosperity in her. While she was working, he was going to go and get the paperwork done. After all, they want to be an official company, so you need to keep your documents in order. Zhaojiao couldn't understand him. It was the end of the world. Mengshu had warned them that he would be leaving for a couple of days, and the highly qualified experts would be arriving soon, so they had to stop them from killing her colleagues. He knew that in such an environment, he definitely needed a high-class bodyguard. At this point, the system successfully confirmed the launch of the business and gave out a reward in the form of experience, points, and money. Due to the large amount of money, it is now temporarily stored in the system, and he needs to withdraw it from an ATM. Mengshu's eyes lit up as he decided to distribute the stat points and add a point to the strength. Suddenly, it glowed with a bright light. His muscles began to grow gradually. Now he was even more motivated to lead this company to the top. At this moment, Zhaojiao was typing hard. She didn't have the internet, and she kept sending messages, assuming that the boss wasn't right in the head. She turned her head slowly, and there were sinister zombie guards standing outside the door. Zhaojiao tried to find someone online out of fear. He went down to the parking lot. I decided that the Cadillac would be too flashy, so I took the Banban. He opened the car and walked over to her. But when I pulled the handle, a new task was triggered. He was given a temporary part-time job in a taxi so that he could solve financial problems in the company. In the reflection of the glass, he saw a crowd of zombies approaching him. The system asked him to smile for the sake of a beautiful life, and maintaining politeness can give out rewards. He spun around and hit the crowd of zombies with his spear. Meishu continued to smile, asking them to be more polite. He beat up everyone around him, noticing the familiar faces of his colleagues. 3 zombies stood behind him, horrified by his brutality. Suddenly, Mengshu turned to look at them. He recognized one of the guys and grinned. Then they took off, trying to escape from him. But Mengshu had already swung his spear at them. After a while, they were already lying on the ground. Mengshu was sad that he couldn't hand out flyers to them because they were attacking. He didn't expect anyone else to call a taxi at this time. But he got in anyway, not knowing why he should call a taxi in the parking lot. So he started the car and drove. He drove out of the parking lot at high speed. The man was trying to find more medicines in empty jars. But I was standing over the table with my hands shaking because it was completely over. He gritted his teeth in frustration, and he went into the room to his daughter, next to whom the mother was sitting. My daughter still had a high fever, and there was no more medicine, which caused the woman to cry. The man sighed heavily. I decided to go outside anyway. A woman with tears in her eyes begged him not to leave because there was an apocalypse, but the man was willing to take the risk in such a precarious state of affairs. She asked him to be careful. There were crowds of dead people walking around in the street, and just as many were lying on the ground. The man was hiding behind a car. He tried to catch his breath as he ran for half an hour. Suddenly, he saw the zombies coming after him. I didn't want to die at all. One of the zombies pounced on him, but it landed right in front of him, kicking him in the face. The man fell to the ground right in front of the zombie pack. In his mind, he begged for help, not wanting to die. He was trying to get away from the fall. He opened his eyes abruptly when he heard the sounds. Right in front of him was a crowd of zombies that were getting closer and closer. They were already reaching out their hands, and the man knew that his end had come. But at that moment, a car appeared on the road, which immediately knocked down the attacking crowd. The man was covered in blood when he opened his mouth in shock. Mengshu was driving. Then he offered him a taxi service, offering a minimum fare if you go nearby. The system immediately issued a reward for the first trip. He was given information about the salaries of his employees, where the guards received 10,000 and Zhao Zhao 20. If the salary exceeds 10,000, then employees will definitely not defect, but it can cause a staff turnover. He was extremely angry that he let it pass and actually gave them such a high salary. Zhao Zhao suddenly sneezed. She turned abruptly toward the door. The zombies were still glaring at her aggressively. Mengshu got out of the car, clarifying where he wanted to go. The man admitted that he was going to the pharmacy for medicines for his child. Mengshu immediately became concerned, not understanding why he didn't drive his car. But the man sold the car because they did not have enough money, especially since the noise attracts zombies. Mengshu sighed in frustration, explaining that he had to work part-time as a taxi driver as a company director because he couldn't pay his salary. The man was shocked. He proudly held out his hand, introducing himself as the boss of Peace and Order, and offered to work for him. But the salary was only 3,000. He began to talk about his documents for the official company, offering to give him a ride to the pharmacy at the administration and complaining about the paperwork. The man thought him crazy, but felt sorry for him, deciding to go with him. The man shook his hand. But I suggested we go to a nearby pharmacy first. Mengshu hugged him like an old friend, intending to talk to him on the way. He realized that he too was slowly losing his mind. Mengshu calmly drove along the road filled with zombies, asking about his child. His car was hitting zombies in piles and they were being chased by the crowd. The man stared open-mouthed out the window at the dead, while Mengshu whined about the modern generation, not noticing that the taxi was already taken. He punched the zombie out of the window. He gave them the middle finger, explaining that this was not a minibus but a taxi. The man was horrified that the guy in just 3 days on the street behaves like this. The car stopped abruptly. The man flew into the windshield with his cheek due to surprise. He couldn't understand what had happened, but Mengshu was fine when he lit the cigarette. He just waited for the green light, handing him a pack of cigarettes. The man saw how their car was noticed by a crowd nearby and began to run in their direction. Eventually, they were surrounded by a crowd. Mengshu couldn't believe how brusque they were. The man insisted that he go on because suddenly they will break into the car. But Mengshu reminded him of the price of a red light ticket. The man realized that getting into this car was a mistake. Finally, the traffic light turned yellow, and the car's wheels finally spun. The traffic light turned green. He immediately hit several zombies that were holding onto the car. The man was shocked by his driving skills. Mengshu boasted that he had been playing QQ Speed for 10 years. Suddenly, he noticed something in the mirror. Their car was followed by an Audi. The man didn't know what they wanted, assuming it was another taxi driver trying to intercept the customer. Meng Shu reminded that it was the end of the world, thinking that it was other survivors who wanted to rob them, or the second option. But he did not finish further, holding the intrigue. Meng Shu madly assumed that those zombies in the parking lot hadn't died, but had gotten on the pursuit car, intending to deal with them. The man hinted that zombies probably don't know how to drive. Meng Shu realized that there was logic in his words and decided to outsmart the people on the Audi. Suddenly, he was in shock. The man was trying to figure out what was wrong with him. The system issued a notification about the talent he used earlier, and his high-class bodyguard appeared within a 3-kilometer radius. He assumed that it was his bodyguard driving the car, but the system would have warned him about this. The man shouted sharply at him to keep his eyes on the road. A bully suddenly appeared on the road, carrying a body in his hand. It was a third-level, power-mutated zombie that had clenched the body in its hands with one fist. Meng Shu realized that this was his high-class bodyguard. The man offered to push him, but Meng Shu was only going to get some medicine. The thug jerked away from them, heading in the direction of their car. Meng Shu clung to the gearbox and stepped on the pedals. Thanks to this, they were able to dodge his strike. He immediately realized that the goon was a tough opponent, so I immediately drove away at full speed. They were still followed by the Audi, which was approaching the bully in the middle of the road. The guy was driving, and the girl asked him to go around the road. But he believed that he could also hit zombies with a car, just like the one in front. So I pulled myself together and went. The goon saw him and raised his hand. The man didn't understand what it was, but it didn't feel like a normal zombie. Meng Shu immediately explained about the high-class bodyguard. It took him a moment to understand what he was talking about. The big man lunged at the Audi behind him, and there was a huge explosion on the road. Meng Shu stopped on the road, and I asked for payment from a man, and he gave him a card with 30,000. He took it to pay his employees. For the trip, he received a separate reward and pumped all the points into the force. The man considered him a good guy after all, and helped him survive in this chaos. He frowned sharply. He asked how many employees he had, asking if there was enough food. Meng Shu then offered him a job again if he introduced himself. He introduced himself as Zhang Longping and used to work as a human resources manager, even though he was studying to be an electrician. Meng Shu was interested in his profession and would like to add an electrician to his ranks. The man's eyes flashed, asking to take his wife and child with him, and Meng Shu gave him the go-ahead. The system immediately banned him from child labor, but if he doesn't pay them, then they are not employed. He put a hand on his shoulder, supporting his family. The system discovered Longping's wild desire to work for his company and accepted him and his wife into the company, so now it was necessary to choose a salary for new employees. He inquired about their salary expectations, but Longping only wanted a quiet job for safety's sake. Meng Shu glowed at his words. After all, he needed just such an employee. The system reminded him that employees have minimum salary requirements. So he scolded Longping that in a good company, you always need a decent salary for your work. He ended the call. He decided to hire him as an intern and pay him 8 grand each month. The system explained the rules for internships that last up to 3 months. If there are no serious mistakes, they will have to become full-fledged employees. Longping put his hand on his heart as he prepared to join his peace and order company. Meng Shu shook his hand, welcoming him to his new home. He suggested that he go to his daughter's place to buy medicine while he went to his apartment, and tomorrow they would meet at the administration to go to work. But he asked them not to die because they hadn't signed the employment contract yet, and handed him a kitchen knife for self-defense. Longping resolutely took the knife, not intending to use it against the law. Then he got out of the car and Meng Shu drove away. Surprisingly, he felt much calmer with a gun in his hand. After a while, Meng Shu arrived at his apartment. He went home. He took off his dirty, bloody shirt. He fell back on the bed, enjoying his beautiful life. Meng Shu stretched, intending to get a good night's sleep after showering. The system advised him to have a good rest after 3 working days. He relaxed, realizing that he could get rewards even for sleeping. And he could safely say that now his life is truly perfect. It had already been a day, and Meng Shu had already finished registering the business and was about to go to the company. His car stopped abruptly. Longping sat at the wheel while Meng Shu looked at his phone. There was an article about the Self-Rescue Committee where Chairman Liu Song and Commander-in-Chief Lu Funing showed up. He grinned, noticing how everyone was gradually starting to organize response teams, but something seemed odd to him. Suddenly, he felt that there was a special talent nearby. He immediately looked out of the window. On the road lay a mutant surrounded by zombies, where an overturned Audi was lying. He couldn't believe that he had met her again and decided to stop. Longping obeyed and stopped the car right in front of the legless thug. He didn't understand what the director was up to, but he still followed orders. Meng Shu got out of the car, trying to figure out what this mutant was doing. He took out a huge axe, intending to give it a job. He began to walk slowly toward the crowd of zombies. He made a sharp dash in their direction. and cut them in half. Long Ping opened his mouth in shock, not expecting it to be so strong. Meng Shu turned to the bully, asking about today's earnings. But the goon looked at him, making noises. Meng Shu realized that he had been hit by a car and was now unable to work, so he asked him not to die. He noticed that the thug's legs were slowly healing. Suddenly, he hit him on the shoulder with the axe to stop him from rushing. He noticed that it was definitely different from its relatives, wanting to open it for study. Long Ping also got out of the car, realizing that the boss was having trouble with his head. Meng Shu slapped the mutant's arm, and he cut it off, taking it in his hands, but I immediately threw it out of the way. Then he suddenly hit him on the head. Long Ping couldn't stand the sight and felt sick. He reminded her that this was also considered a violation of the law, but Meng Shu didn't consider zombies to be humans. He also noted that the government did not put forward laws on the protection of zombies. He just wanted to study it in more detail to identify its weakness, and in the future, it might come in handy. At that moment, he took out a wrench from his back pocket. He swung sharply. He slapped the mutant's forehead, causing his eyes to fall out. Long Ping was nervous as he watched the brutality, but Meng Shu calmly bent down, digging through its remains. Among his brains was a bright red crystal. Long Ping didn't expect this, so Meng Shu asked him for a napkin. Long Ping handed him a napkin. He carefully picked up the crystal with a napkin. Lun Ping suggested that we go back to the office. Meng Shu wanted to find an expert to study the crystal. They finally arrived at the office. He was happy with his work, that he was able to settle all the paperwork on one business trip and added new employees. Long Ping still couldn't believe that he would go to a routine job in such an environment. Meng Shu required daily reports, and one needed to record what happened during the business trip. Lun Ping suddenly compared the boss, Wisdom, to Jack Ma and Pony Ma. Meng Shu immediately remembered them, how one made money from buying women online and the other from spending in games, and they were disgusting to him. After all, the money had to come from everyone without exception. Meng Shu was pleased with the new intern, who could definitely become a full-time employee. When they walked into the company, a fat man was standing there. It was a zombie who was holding a bag of dried tofu. Meng Shu immediately swung the axe at him, and I punched him in the stomach to make him behave respectfully towards the residents of this building. Lin Pong patted his boss, and Meng Shu liked this kind of person. The next day came. He came with the whole family, ordering his daughter to respect him. My wife didn't expect them to actually work. The man reminded that they need to work hard to have something to eat. My wife suggested that the boss might be crazy if he was recruiting employees in the apocalypse. Lin Pong immediately gagged her to come in and say hello to the boss. But at this moment, he demanded to take all the bank cards, but the woman did not understand why. Lin Pong had a grand plan in mind. The whole family went to the study where Meng Shu was sitting with Zhao Zhao. Lin Pong introduced his wife and his new colleague, and Meng Shu asked them to choose any workplace. The man asked her to take the child with her. She still couldn't figure out what was going on. Zhao Jiao watched Lin Pong with a strange expression. Lin Pong handed him a bank card like a gift. Meng Shu was happy about the bribe, knowing that the guy knew his job. The system ordered him to stick to the right values and not give in to petty gains. She said to loudly denounce the employee for a bribe in order to keep the trend out of the company. Meng Shu gritted his teeth in greed as he stopped reaching for the map. He turned abruptly in his chair, refusing to accept the bribe. Lin Pong apologized to the director for his offense, and Meng Shu praised him for admitting his mistake. Zhao Zhao didn't expect their company to be so conscientious. Lin Pong decided to discuss his promotion to a full-time employee, and Meng Shu hinted that he would definitely be hired for his hard work. He didn't expect that he would want to come out of the internship 2 days later. Meng Shu ordered Zhao Zhao to print out 2 employment contracts for new employees. But the lights in the building suddenly turned off, and half of her work was gone, but Meng Shu ordered her to work by hand. He started scolding her, intending to adjust her salary, reducing it to 10,000. Zhao Jiao accepted his reprimand, accepting the pay cut as punishment. Meng Shu continued to issue orders for everyone to print out copies of their employment contracts. Zhao Jiao accepted his order. The system reported the prosperity of his company, and now he can arrange a meeting for the election of the vice president, and soon the day of net earnings will come. A new meeting task has been activated. He couldn't believe that such a generous reward was given out for the meeting, so this was a must-have item. Meng Shu called Qi Wei and manager Zhang to lead the meeting. They all sat down at a large table, wanting to hold a meeting first. The family turned around and was shocked to see the zombies. Lin Pong ran over, pulling out a chair for the boss. Convenience. My wife was suddenly surprised, and then she had an epiphany. She handed him a bottle of soda so he wouldn't need anything. Meng Shu didn't expect this from the new employees. Zhao Jiao clutched the pen in her hand in annoyance. She slammed it down on the table. She jumped, reminding them that she was the most experienced employee among them, so don't get too cocky. Zhao Jiao pushed Lin Pong away and offered her boss a shoulder massage after the business trip. She recalled that she is well-versed in social situations and can find a way out. Everyone finally sat down. Meng Shu was satisfied and was about to start the meeting. He took a sip of tea from his mug, and he began to talk about the creation of two departments. The first department was the sanitation department, where Liu Xiang, Lin Peng's wife, would be the supervisor, and the team members would be Qi Wei and Zhang Tao. The second department was the communication service department, where Zhao Zhao became the head, and Longping and Yani, his daughter, were interns. Moreover, Xiaqiu becomes the vice president, who is responsible for the first department. Also, Meng Shu wanted to create harmony within the company and not discriminate against zombies. Everyone applauded him. Then he decided to ask their opinion, because the company stood for freedom of speech. The voice went to Zhao Zhao. She had long wanted to know the core business of their company. Meng Shu talked about contact center outsourcing and cleaning. He ordered the corpses to be removed from the building immediately, so that no one would be disgusted. And in communications, it was necessary to focus on answering calls. And after negotiating with Wang Xiang, he would send them to their floor. The system issued a notification that Zhao Zhao's experience as a clerk trainee had risen. Meng Shu gave her another assignment to write out another personnel contract by hand afterwards. Meng Shu promised to discuss other matters when Wang Xiang was dealt with. The system praised his efficient meeting. When he resolves the issues with Wang Xiang and strengthens his position in his company, he can become a boss observer and travel around the world. The task was rated perfect, giving a reward. He immediately distributed all the dexterity points. He ended the meeting by dismissing all employees. After a while, Qi Wei and Zhang Tao were sitting on the floor, eating the remains. Meng Shu was displeased, reminding them that he was ordering them to leave. A red crystal was seen on his neck. The zombies were interested in him. Meng Shu knew that this was what they needed. After all, it was an evolution crystal. So he hung it on a stick and led his subjects with him. As they walked, Meng Shu ordered the others to clean up the office on the right side. He planned to clear the building in 3 days and then turn the area into a company. And he was going to deal with the unknown redstone. The system issued a description of the evolution crystal. It was a crystal obtained as a result of genetic training by an alien civilization, which parasitizes and provides them with stages of evolution. It could be chewed, swallowed, cooked, fried, and boiled, but it contained a virus. Since Meng Shu's strength has reached its peak, consuming this crystal won't increase his stats. He didn't expect the crystal to give a power boost. And now he has the perfect way to direct his zombie employees. He started waving the crystal wand, telling them not to bite people or they wouldn't get the ruby. And again, he ordered to work hard and put the company in order. The zombies stared at him blankly. Meng Shu decided to pretend that they understood him. Zhao Zhao had already finished drawing up all the contracts, and all that remained was to get Meng Shu's signature. He asked about their child's condition after taking medication. But although the temperature dropped, the child did not feel very well, and the woman could not understand the reasons. Meng Shu gave the order to pay attention to health, because children are their future. The system praised him for taking care of his subordinates, and if he could heal their daughter, he would gain 2 loyal employees. Moreover, this disease is slowly spreading, so you need to be careful. The task turned out to be the treatment of subordinates. Meng Shu didn't expect that the system would require the child to be cured. He had no idea how to treat her, having 2 cold medicines in his arsenal. And he began to dig into the system, trying to find some kind of miracle cure for the common cold. There really was a cold medicine in the store. Meng Shu immediately purchased it. The medicine appeared in her hands as the woman stared at it in disbelief. He pretended to find it, asking for it to be given to a child with an illness. He started to leave as Zhao Zhao followed him, telling him about her leaflet distribution training. Now I wanted to help him distribute them quickly. Zhao Zhao really wanted to prove her worth against the background of new employees, but Meng Shu wasn't going to hand out flyers. Meng Shu said that Wang Xing had too many employees and was going to go up to them to optimize the staff. He opened the cabinet where the huge axe lay. He remembered how shy he used to be, backing away from combat in games, but now he was dealing with zombies 1 or 2 at a time. Zhao Jiao wished him luck. The family silently stared at the medicine box as if it was their last hope. Lin Peng was sure that the boss didn't want to hurt them, especially since the daughter was already in a sorry state. The wife agreed because they had no choice. She immediately handed her daughter medicine and a glass of water. The girl washed down the pill. The family watched the result with concern. Suddenly, she lit up all over, and she began to speak sharply and animatedly. They didn't understand what had happened, but the woman hugged her daughter tightly, and now everything is fine. Zhao Jiao watched the family sadly, thinking of her parents. Suddenly, she realized that the girl was feeling better less than a minute after taking the medicine. And I concluded that it might be the same umbrella company, praising my boss. Meanwhile, Meng Shu was walking up to the top floor. The system praised his kind-heartedness for spending 20 points to buy medicine. The task was rated super perfect and given a reward. He was given a hidden achievement and an additional reward. Meng Shu was very pleased with the praise. And I decided to pour all the points into the spiritual power so that I would always be adequate in the eyes of others. The stats were already quite good, but the physique and spirit were a little behind, and next time he would be able to level up his agility to the maximum. Zombie employees had already appeared on the stairs. They were both level 0. Meng Shu was willing to help them optimize because you can't increase your staff during the apocalypse. The 2 zombies swooped down on him, but Meng Shu chopped the guy's head off. He ran up the stairs at the bouncing girl. On the move, he immediately cut off her head with an axe. He walked on as the body fell down the stairs. There were knocks coming from the door as he went up. Meng Shu grinned, not expecting such a grand reception. Through the door, he approached Director Lin, trying to offer his services in staff optimization. He went up further, where he was met by a crowd of zombies. Meng Shu immediately took down one with an axe. He sliced through the second one with a deft movement. He grinned, covered in zombie blood. There were dead people all around him when he got them all sorted out. Meng Shu continued to address Supervisor Lin, trying to talk to him about the employees. After a while, the guy was peeking out from behind the curtains. The room at the back was filled with zombie corpses. It was Meng Xinpeng, the former deputy head of Wangxiang. He recalled how he had killed the infiltrators, but he even wanted to save a couple of survivors for his experiments, because now he could kill people without punishment. Suddenly, he heard a voice outside and looked out, but I was shocked with surprise. On the street, 2 zombies could be seen dragging corpses, and another zombie was dragging a bench. It was the Wangxiang fried chicken shop. The system reported the successful downsizing of Wangxing Company, and now it is experiencing difficulties. The system offered 3 options. The first option was relentless prosecution, intending to liquidate the company completely. The second option was a gradual expansion, and offered the possibility of adding 3 additional service departments with a reduction. And the third option was a mutually beneficial cooperation, where he can try to initiate negotiations with the chairman to use their company's resources. Meng Shu recalled how they had thrown them all in the trash, feeling a little uneasy. So he immediately decided to choose the first option, relentless pursuit. The system offered to use its advantage to consolidate the Peace and Order Company in the city. For the first stage of the task, he was given a reward. He decided to give points to dexterity and keep the experience in reserve. He didn't want to rest until he had the building under his control. The system announced that Liu Xiang had arrived at the designated location. He could now use the shop to complete the task. It was his favorite diner. Xinpeng was shocked by the sight, feeling as if he had gone mad. Meng Shu gave orders to Liu Xiang to eliminate the zombies on the 2nd and 3rd floor, then coordinate with Manager Zhang and Qi Wei. And Liu Xiang immediately rushed to work. He ran furiously like a madman. He immediately jumped into the building. Xinpeng noticed that the zombie downstairs looked like a manager from a nearby office. He wanted to know how this zombie was different from the others. Some time passed. Meng Shu was already walking through a clean and beautiful corridor. When he walked in, everyone cheered at his arrival. They bowed down to him, thanking him for saving their daughter. Meng Shu decided to take their hard work as a reward and was going to make them permanent employees for their productivity. The whole family thanked him. Lin Peng again told his daughter not to call him uncle because his wisdom deserves special respect. He really treated him like a progenitor. Meng Shu patted the girl's head, asking her to study harder so that she could become the future of his company. He gave them an order to clean up the other floors as well, and that Liu Xiang had already started work on cleaning up the zombies on the floors. The entire family applauded his staff and the board. It was already time to leave because he had some important things to do, and he asked everyone to get back to work. Suddenly, the system issued an unexpected notification about Zhang Tao's death as a result of an accident, and now he will have to pay compensation in the amount of 20 average monthly income, and an additional payment as funeral expenses of 1 million yuan. Meng Shu's eyes flew out in shock after seeing this amount. Due to the lack of a legal department, it was impossible to appeal this decision. A lawyer could reduce payments for dismissals or violations. Immediately, the system praised his voluntary payment, which is the act of a prudent manager. He was given the title of Avant-Garde of Conscience, which gave him a reward. Meng Shu let out a relaxed sigh when he realized that he still had some money left after the payment. He couldn't believe that someone dared to kill his employee. So he decided to fire the employee right away next time if he was on the verge of death, because it would be much cheaper. He reported that the best zombie was gone forever, remembering him as a hardworking employee. After all, he had been with him since before the company appeared, handing out leaflets with Qi Wei on the streets, and now he was dead, and he was bursting with pain. He hit the wall with his fist, wanting to find the culprit. Meng Shu gave out orders for everyone to roast 2 bags of nuggets, ordering them not to try a single bite. He said that he was leaving on a business trip with a sanitary cleaning department and ordered not to go to other dangerous floors. Now he was going to go out on a hunt to destroy the assassin and immediately decided to invest points in dexterity. The system increased agility almost to the limit of human capabilities. Zombies were walking down the street. Meng Shu and his gang appeared in front of them. He immediately gave his zombies an order to make way for him. Lu Xiang charged first, swinging, and hit the zombie in the face. He began to scatter the entire crowd of zombies. Meanwhile, Xinpeng carefully examined Zhang Tao's body. He didn't see anything special about his remains, and he didn't understand why he was dragging corpses around back then. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Xinpeng didn't expect someone to knock on the front door. He peeked out from behind the curtain. A crowd of dead zombies lay under the window. He couldn't believe they were all dead. I noticed a living person standing by the door. It was Meng Shu, who was looking at him with an axe in his hands. He immediately recognized the person who was controlling the zombie, fearing that he had noticed it. Meng Shu couldn't believe that his colleague had been killed by another person, but he didn't know if he could kill a person for the sake of some zombie. He kept knocking to talk to him. Xinpeng now had no doubt that it was a human being. He grinned, knowing there was no choice anyway. Then Xinpeng opened the door for him, immediately apologizing for his caution. He introduced himself as the deputy night shift supervisor from Wangxiang. Meng Shu immediately knew that he was a real bastard, but he still introduced himself in response. He was surprised by the coincidence that they shared the same surname, suggesting that they might be related in some generation. Meng Shu agreed with his words with a smile. The system suggested using the reading people skill to get information about a new friend. Xinpeng is a third-level corporate executive and a psychopathic killer by profession. He considered the street unsafe and suggested that we go inside and talk. Meng Shu agreed with a smile. And suddenly, he kicked. It hit Xinpeng squarely on the back. Because of this, the guy fell to the ground, and he put his foot on it, realizing that it was he who killed its employee. Meng Shu realized that all the people who had died and Mr. Liu had been killed by him. He couldn't say anything while Meng Shu was standing on his face. Therefore, Meng Shu immediately kicked him on the back, because he wasn't worthy of bearing his surname. Xinpeng tried to justify himself, pretending that it was self-defense, offering to become his slave. Meng Shu gave him the right to remain silent, but every word would be his last. Xinpeng was on his knees begging for mercy. Then he decided to forgive his mistake, offering to fight for his life with his subject. Lu Xiang was standing in front of the door. Xinpeng knelt right in front of him. So far, Meng Shu has given orders to Qi Wei to pick up the fruit. Xinpeng looked at the mad Lu Xiang with fear in his eyes. Meng Shu, meanwhile, was carrying away the fruit. The system had insulted him for taking such harsh measures and beating up Xinpeng, and now he would be violently enraged, causing his affection to drop by 100 points. The system started insisting on creating a legal department. Therefore, I activated the task so that he would find at least 3 lawyers, and at least one must have the 5th level. After that, he will be immune to fines and reduced compensation. Meng Shu pondered, realizing that he really needed the legal department. Suddenly, he remembered lawyer Zhan Wan, who was the best candidate. He ordered Qi Wei to finish the fruit and move the bottled water. But she didn't answer, so he turned around. Suddenly, her face was cleaner and more beautiful. Meng Shu didn't know if he was imagining it or not, as if she had become prettier. It turned out that she had raised her level to level 1. Meng Shu had the feeling that she wasn't doing anything, but the level up was still good news. Lu Xiang snarled harshly, which showed his opposite opinion. Xinpeng was also a zombie now, and they were growling in unison. But his affection was minus 100 points. Meng Shu was just missing a dog, so he called him to work. Now he has appointed him as the watchdog of his company's security department. He ordered him to go upstairs. Meng Shu went back to the office. Zhao Zhao greeted him, telling him that they had finished making nuggets. They were all doing it together, and Zhao Zhao was waiting for him to praise the department. Meng Shu immediately praised their work. Lin Peng suddenly cleared his throat, reminding him of something. Zhao Zhao recalled the death of Zhang Tao, regretting it, and decided to express their feelings a little in memory of her colleague. The girl handed him the paper cranes they had made. Meng Shu patted her head, explaining that he had already taken revenge for brother Zhang and picked up a new employee who wouldn't come up here. The wife was delighted with her husband, who was able to guess the gift for the boss so that the management would like it. Lin Peng believed that the boss was completely adequate and just ahead of his time. Meng Shu asked them to move the water and fruit from below. He promised that Liu Xiang would not attack them and decided to send messages to Zhang Tao through their cranes. He allowed them to take 5 nuggets each, the cost of which would be deducted from their paychecks. Then he was about to leave, ordering Zhao Jiao to follow along with the nuggets. They reached the stairs and heard a growl. Zhao Jiao held onto his arm, worried. I was instantly shocked. Meng Shu asked her to prepare a simple contract to hire Zhang's lawyer in their legal department. Zhao Jiao couldn't believe that the same lawyer had turned into a zombie. Meng Shu only wanted to handle the company's legal issues. The floors were being washed in the office. It was the family that was watching Zhao Jiao. Lin Peng noticed that she had been in the clouds since her return, as if something serious had happened there. Zhao Zhao still couldn't get used to Meng Shu's weirdness. At this moment, he appeared in the office and clapped. He showed their new employee, lawyer Zhang, that he would help them solve legal issues. They patted him as he peeked around the corner in disgust. Meng Shu suggested that they work together for the good of the company. He praised him for voluntarily agreeing to a pay cut, now being the most exemplary employee in his eyes. Moreover, it can now reduce its payments. When lawyer Zhang's introduction was over, he ordered everyone to go down to the underground parking lot to drag the fruit. He decided to pick up the apples early because it's not safe to leave them in the store. A bus was coming down the dark road. Inside, there were soldiers and many people who were crying. Wen Yuan, the vice dean at the university, was glad that the army had come to their rescue. Otherwise, they wouldn't have survived. He looked at all the survivors from behind, not understanding how things could have turned into such a hell. Behind him sat Chen Bing, a second-year student in their department, and had recently even attended his lecture, marveling at his knowledge of architecture. Wen Yuan hadn't seen him before. Chen Bing said that he lived not far from here. They shook hands and Wen Yuan didn't understand. All of a sudden, the guy's eyes turned bloodshot, and he confessed that he was looking for him. At this moment, he abruptly twisted his arm, causing him to cry out in pain. One of the soldiers heard the commotion and got up to check. Chen Bing recalled how Ding Zhao died, not understanding why he just didn't stay at home. They wanted to destroy him because with his knowledge, their plan to clean up the world would be difficult to implement. The soldier was getting closer. They began to surround Chen Bing, but he forcefully pushed one of them away. The second soldier pointed his rifle at him. He started firing a series of bullets at the fleeing Chen Bing. All the bullets hit his back, piercing through, causing him to stagger a little. But I still took off and picked up speed. By this time, he had already reached the driver, who had noticed him. Suddenly, Chen Bing swung his fist while his eyes were burning bright red, and hit the driver in the face, causing him to hit his head on the glass, breaking it. The soldiers continued to fire at Chen Bing from behind. Now he was being hit in every part of his body, which stopped him. Suddenly, the driver turned the steering wheel sharply to the right. Because of what the bus left the road and flew up. The soldiers were thrown out of the bus right through the window. The bus fell on its side, lying on the asphalt. Chen Bing's hand appeared from the broken window. He got out as if he hadn't received any injuries. One of the soldiers was also able to climb out of the window, and Chen Bing immediately noticed him. The soldier wanted to destroy it, starting to shoot. After all, the commander gave the order to immediately destroy the target if detected. Therefore, he covered it with a number of bullets, which caused it to fly up. Chen Bing fell from the bus to the ground as if dead, and the soldier heaved a sigh of relief. But Chen Bing didn't die as he slowly stood up from the ground. The soldier was shocked and couldn't believe it. Chen Bing stood up and wanted to make a dash when the rest of the soldiers arrived. They started firing non-stop in his direction, but the monster ran through their gunfire as if it didn't care. The soldiers didn't understand what it was when Chen Bing stabbed the soldier through with one hand. While another soldier was firing at Chen Bing, Wen Yuan managed to get out of the bus, having his arm blown off. He saw the whole scene and began to shake with fear. I jumped off the bus right away. Under the guise, he managed to escape. Meanwhile, in the Self-Defense Committee, in the office of the General Director, the headmaster knew that there was another gang of bastards who called themselves the Chosen Ones. They didn't understand who this master was. They received the latest report that soldiers and buses from the Architectural University were destroyed. Dean Zhao Tingye was confirmed dead, and Vice President Wen Yuan was reported missing. This wasn't the first attack, with soldiers disappearing, lines collapsing, and zombies appearing out of nowhere. According to the Self-Defense Committee, they were able to capture one of them. The captured man claimed that the apocalypse is a test given to the little man from the Lord, and only those who can pass it will be considered new people. He slammed the table in rage, knowing it was a cult of some sort. These monsters looked exactly like ordinary people, but they couldn't refuse to accept survivors. Their forces were depleted, there was no network or communication, and weapons were useless against them. Moreover, the level of infection among the military and police was too high at the beginning of the virus outbreak. He ordered an emergency evacuation, retreating to another city. He decided to leave the villages of Taoyuan and Mingya. At this point, they could only act on the plan and hope for the best. Night had already fallen. The system congratulated him on completing the task for an absolutely perfect grade. He didn't expect customers to automatically give him a positive review. Suddenly, he remembered the negative review during the chicken nugget sale. Everyone immediately felt the aura of murder. He knew that he wouldn't be able to achieve his goals if he just sat still. He's still missing 2 lawyers, and the Wangxing chairman isn't showing up, so he'll have to go out to fieldwork. Suddenly, Zhao Zhao noticed his gaze on her, sensing that he might be interested in her. At this moment, Meng Shu gave her the order to prepare the minutes of the meeting because tomorrow he will go on a mission. There were fried sausages on the table. Meng Shu was leading the meeting, showing the new schedule of work on the joint Chinese-American production PitSnip. Now the workday started at 8 a.m. East Asian time and ended at 5 o'clock New York time. Zhao Zhao realized that he was a true capitalist. He wanted to arrange a democratic vote so that those who agreed with his idea would remain silent. Zhao Zhao raised her hand to protest, since only 3 of them were human. Meng Shu decided to demote her to the position of acting team leader, but there was no place to lower her salary. She didn't understand why, but he did it for her growth. Zhao Zhao was upset, feeling a hint of deception. He was going to leave tomorrow morning and assign security to Qi Wei and lawyer Zhang. For the others, the task remained the same, collecting water and drying fruit. The woman considered the director a real example. Lin Pong agreed with her, writing down his every word in a notebook. Zhao Jiao couldn't believe how they could suck up like this, being office plankton. The meeting was over, and they had to get back to work. The system reported that he had accumulated 14 experience points. He invested everything in the profession of stall owner and raised the level. It was getting harder to level up, but he believed in himself. The next morning came. He was already on a new field mission. The girl made him a new paper crane, wishing him a safe trip. He patted her on the head and asked her to return to the building. Meng Shu ordered Zhao Zhao to take care of the children's education as the new head of the education group's department. The girl didn't want to go to school even at the end of the world. But Meng Shu insisted on continuing the classes until the universe exploded. He got in the car. He was going to check out the situation in the safe zone, and all the staff wished him a safe trip. He was also going to bring in lawyers from the Dashan firm. He also thought of Wang Wuzhang's villa from Wanshang, wanting to search it. Meng Shu was delighted with his genius, but suddenly something stopped him. He accidentally hit a zombie on the road. The license plate and stamp were broken due to the impact. Meng Shu was angry that some zombie dared to crash his car, so he stepped on the gas pedal and hit the zombies at full speed. The zombie hit the road again. He didn't understand why it was so tenacious, so he decided to look at it with the reading people skill. It was a level 1 mutant zombie. Meng Shu didn't expect to meet another mutant zombie. He hit him with an axe, explaining that he did not work in a taxi. And then I hit him again on the arm, which is why I cut off his arm. Then another punch from the other side. He called his lawyer, who did not consider it a violation of the law. And then he decided to take some crystals from him to pay off the debt, since the zombie didn't have any money. But as he sat over the remains, he heard footsteps behind him. Meng Shu recognized the girl Zheng Xiaxu, who had turned into a zombie. She didn't expect to meet him either. Meng Shu appreciated her decent appearance and asked her to wash up to work for him. The mutant's skull was incredibly strong, even cooler than the last mutant. He pulled out a yellow crystal from the slime. It was a small evolution crystal that gave you a chance to gain a point to your physique, but also a chance to turn into a zombie. Meng Shu was absolutely certain that he wouldn't take such a risk. Zhang Xiaxu was standing next to him, looking at him. Meng Shu asked what was the difference between a zombie's gray and red eyes. Normal zombies had gray eyes, but mutants had 2 colors at once. He noticed that the girl was very dirty. So I bought a bottle of water from the store, and I got my hands on it. He immediately began to wipe the girl from the dirt so that she would not spoil the image of his company. Then he decided to change her clothes because they didn't fit her status. And blushed, not being principled. The system immediately warned that undressing a girl without her consent can be regarded as harassment. He was disappointed that the system interfered at the most interesting moment, because silence is a sign of consent. The system reminded that none of this is consent. Meng Shu reminded that he was just helping his subordinate change clothes, and the system pondered. They headed to the abandoned clothing stores. He started offering her clothes so that she could take care of her appearance. Shikyu growled questioningly. Meng Shu considered the clothes decent without knowing it. The system gave him a reward for completing the hidden achievement, gentlemen. It was quite a pleasant surprise. Suddenly, there were cries for help on the street, but no one could be saved. Meng Shu remembered that there was a medical university nearby, and live medical students might come in handy, so he decided to go there. A sharp noise started outside the window, and the zombies started running along the street. A huge crowd ran in one direction. It turned out that there were several survivors in the square who were defending themselves from the crowd. They were not bitten to death, but killed by humans, which they quickly regretted because the screams attracted the dead. Meng Shu ordered Xiaqiu to wait for her on the spot. He slowly crept up on one of the guys. He swung the axe. But he didn't hit a survivor, but a zombie that was standing nearby. He joined their ranks, helping them deal with the crowd. After a while, they were able to defeat everyone. They were sure that they were the chosen ones, but they were still attacked by zombies. The guy claimed that this is why they were targeted. Finally, they noticed the newcomer. Meng Shu looked at their stats. One of them was a genetically enhanced human, the other a serial killer/cannibal. He pretended that he was also the chosen one and came at the order of the master, and immediately offered fried sausages at a cheap price. The guy didn't believe him, but Meng Shu claimed otherwise. Suddenly, Meng Shu took an axe and cut one of them's throat open. The guy didn't expect this, not understanding why he did it. But according to him, it was a request from Vladika. Back then, he believed that Meng Shu was also the chosen one. At this moment, Meng Shu started insulting him and his mother. The guy didn't expect this at all. So I swung at him, but Meng Shu hit him first, chopping off his arm. The boy screamed in pain, wanting to take revenge on him. He immediately jumped back. After landing, I rushed towards him again. Mei Shu called Shakyu to block his path. He didn't expect to see zombies here, and noticed that he could actually control them. Suddenly, he felt that the axe was smeared with poison, and it started to enter his body. Shakyu stared at the dying guy in bewilderment. His eyes were filling with blood, and at one point, they completely turned black. He stood up, becoming a monster, and immediately rushed to Shakyu. She smiled wildly and looked up at him. Another guy sat there shaking in fear, while Meng Shu wanted to know the location of their base. And he offered fried sausages if he was hungry. The guy gave out that the base was located in Hongxi, in the restaurant Big Bone. He put 4 sausages in his mouth at once. But the guy didn't have enough money, so he asked to stop. Meng Shu had principles, and he must provide a full service if they ate the food. The boy sighed with relief. In the next instant, with one sharp movement, he inserted the chopsticks into the man's mouth, causing it to pierce right through. Meng Shu was willing to serve him personally, asking for his service rating. A tear rolled down the boy's face. Meng Shu stood proudly above him, watching. The system has updated the achievement role model in the service sector. Meng Shu examined their weapons, finding machetes, bones, and a blade. He decided to pick them up for his zombie employees to make them look intimidating. Then he headed back. But I looked around the corner, and to his surprise, he noticed a satisfied Xiaqiu holding the red crystal in her hands after killing the guy. It was a junior evolution crystal. Suddenly, she stuffed the crystal into her mouth, which made Meng Shu angry and ordered her to spit it out. Xiaqiu started to run away abruptly, and Meng Shu was trying to catch up with her. He was ordering her to stop like a director, promising her more crystals in the future. The girl stopped slowly, and Meng Shu was trying to catch his breath. He was disappointed that she couldn't even respond to his order, but noticed that zombies had ways to evolve. He was going to test what would happen if a normal zombie ate the crystal in the future.